People are praising Mark Carney's speech at Davos as unmissable, as a wake-up call for liberal democracies pointing to the end of the world as we know it. But for a lot of minority communities in Canada, there's nothing new in the arguments that he made. It was just Western liberalism finally saying the quiet part out loud, that liberal values are negotiable. Carney practically said it himself.
And we are no longer just relying on the strength of our values, but also the value of our strength.
Canadians are used to seeing themselves as champions of human rights and international law, but Carney's no human rights lawyer. He's a former central banker, a risk manager, who understands when it's time to hedge your bets. And that's why, just before this speech that quote-unquote left Donald Trump in the dust at Davos, he went to China for the first Canadian state visit in nearly a decade to cut a big trade reset with America's main rival. Carney needs to deal with China as leverage against Trump's threat to turn Canada into America's 51st state. And that same logic explains why Canada sent the Premier of BC to India for about a week to talk about trade. And this is where Carney's so-called strength of Canadian values starts to collapse. Canada's own intelligence agencies identify both China and India as the two largest sources of foreign interference in the country, undermining Canadian democracy. The countries are accused of election meddling, diaspora intimidation, and transnational repression. And in India's case, Canada has even alleged the assassination of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil. And while these concerns may feel abstract or even irrelevant to a largely European audience that was at Davos, who are desperate for anyone to stand up to Donald Trump, it's a central contradiction to Canadian diaspora communities like Sikhs, Hong Kongers, Tibetans, Uyghurs, and others who've seen the strength of Canadian values fail them in favor of trade deals over the years. And yet, at Davos, Carney insisted that Canada can do both.
We aim to be both principled and pragmatic. Principled in our commitment to fundamental values, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and pragmatic in recognizing that progress is often incremental.
Can you really pledge to prioritize sovereignty, territorial integrity, and human rights while deepening ties with governments who are accused of violating all three? Therein lies the fundamental contradiction. In trying to escape America's dominance, Carney is making Canada more dependent on illiberal powers that have already undermined the democratic values of the country. And in handing them more leverage, what's stopping them from doing it again?